Yo, yo, yo. What's up, crew? Just out here starting the live right now. Um, One sec. I'm just posting this on school so that we get people joining as well. Okay. We are officially live. All right. Well, anyone who's tuning in, welcome. This is actually my first live stream here on YouTube, which is great. Seems like we got 9 people hopping on. So let's hear from the chat, guys. Where are you guys all coming from? We got a cool amount of stuff to go through today, but I want to hear from you guys first since it's less workshoppy, more live stream. I want to hear from you guys on where you guys are tuning in from. Feel free to put it in the chat. While I'm doing that, let's get the agenda on the screen today. Let me just share my screen so that you guys can see this. Entire screen. Boom, 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 boom. All right. So let me actually put this on my other computer so I can see what's actually, I'm listening to lo-fi, as you guys can see. But here's what we're going to cover in today's live stream. So where are we now in the AI landscape? What's BS, what's hype, what's real? There's this question that's been going on. Is AI in a bubble? So we're going to cover that. And then I want to make sure that everyone also understands like what's kind of actually working with these like different AI business models today, right? Because there's a lot of different types of business models that people are actually going into capitalize on the AI gold rush, but like what's actually like real, what's actually BS, what's things that we shouldn't focus on. So we just had some people hop on. What's up, Atlantic? Yes, Atlantic, the video will stay on YouTube, but feel free to watch on the stream, ask some questions. I see we got other people hopping on. Before we kick off, y'all, this is what we're going to cover in today's topic, but I want to hear from y'all. Where are you guys calling in from? Where in the world? Are you in Europe? Are you over in maybe the West Coast in the US, maybe Asia, maybe the Middle East? Where are you calling from in the world? Yep, Atlantic. We're over here in Belgium. Cool. Right on. I just want to make sure. Can you guys hear me all right? Drop a yes in the chat if you guys can hear me all right. I want to make sure the audio is good because it's the first time I'm doing a live stream. So, okay, cool. Audio is good. All right. Well, let's kick off. Let's talk about first, where are we now in the AI landscape? We're kind of in an interesting area right now. I'm going to go through this. This is called the technology adoption curve in tech. If anyone doesn't know, I'm actually from kind of like the tech sales world. And we used to cover this all the time. This is like what I would say, believe it or not, it's probably one of the number one most important graphs that you can have when it comes to not just business, but in my firm opinion, when it comes to the technology world right now. So anyone know what this is? Drop a one in the chat if you don't know what this is, because this might be new for some people, especially people who are catching this replay. It might be new. So I do want to explain what exactly it is, just so we kind of understand like what the hell is this idea of the chasm, the early market, the mainstream market. It's a lot of mumbo jumbo words, but let's use our trusty handy dandy friend ChatGPT to define what this is. So funny enough, I actually learned this when I was first getting in tech, because in the tech world, specifically when we kind of apply this to the AI lens, we need to understand this idea of the technology curve, right? So what is crossing the chasm? It's actually a book. So it's actually a book from Jeffrey Moore's book, Crossing the Chasm. And it's really about how new technologies or innovations move from early adopters. Let me actually zoom in here because I know my widescreen is probably like tiny for y'all. All right, I'm gonna make this super simple. Okay, hopefully that's better for y'all. So it's the make or break moment for any new industry, product, or trend. So new technologies or innovations like AI, crypto, electric cars, they move from early adopters to the mass market. So let's go back to this graph. We're moving from here to here. That's why this is called crossing the chasm, because this little gap right here is actually the chasm. And this is the number one most important thing that decides if technology is actually going to enter the consumer standpoint and it's not no longer just like a fad, or it's going to be something that actually just like kind of dies. So like let me use some examples of things that maybe did not cross the chasm properly. Anyone remember NFTs? NFTs when it came to crypto? NFTs. I used to be huge into NFTs. I had a huge portfolio of NFTs back in the NFT quote unquote bubble, right? A lot of people who were adopting it were mainly here. And the problem was NFTs never actually crossed the chasm. So that's why you just see, while NFTs might exist nowadays, it never really entered the mainstream to the point where it actually has real use cases, right? It kind of became this like bubble or fad that was only existent for like 2-3 years at best, right? So we're at a really important point where we need to really see AI, because in my firm opinion, like AI is kind of like is still in this middle ground. A lot of people might say it's entered the mainstream. Um, I'm actually going to challenge that notion. I'm actually challenge that belief. I think we're still in the very early beginning of where the AI market is, and we're very close to the end of actually crossing this chasm successfully, where it enters the mainstream. Right? Believe it or not, like if you're in the online space, like I am, or just in the AI tech space in general, a lot of us are actually these early adopters, right? People who are using like AI before like 2021. A lot of these innovators or technologists were here. So let me actually map out the timeline for you guys so you guys understand where we are in the map. Again, this is why it's important, because we got to map out everything, right? We got to know context for history to know where we're going in the future. So right now what's happening is this is, I would say, pre 2021, right? So anything before 2021. This early adopters phase, I would say, is 2022 to, I would say, 2024. And 2024 to 2025 is where we're like really entering this crossing the chasm moment, right? We see AI start to become really, a popular point of topic. It's things that people are now finally finding real use cases for. And I have a firm belief where we're headed in 2026 is we're gonna actually start to enter the early majority. Now, some people might be saying, well, Larry, I believe AI is in the early majority now, and maybe we're in a bubble. Um, Here's what I'll say to those people. I If we look at history and we look at what actually takes early majority adoption, um, you're maybe in a little bit of the minority of the group of when it comes to actually using AI. So what I mean by that is there might be a lot of AI slop out there, but in terms of real use cases, in terms of outside of just like Chat GPT, people are still figuring this out. Right now, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing in that in this world of you know the crossing of the chasm that's happening with AI, there's actually a lot of opportunity that's coming to people like you, like me, and other people who are already making a killing with this whole thing, right? But we got to understand we're still very much in the early onset of this whole thing, right? If you look at like, for example, like social media, let's use something that we might know. Social media had that kind of crossing the chasm moment with early Facebook, and now everyone's grandma and their family has social media, so we're here, right? But that took a long time. That was from like the early 2010s all the way to the 2020s. So it happened over a span of over a decade. So it takes time, right? Now AI moves fast, but it's still to the point where, I don't, at least in my belief, I don't believe we're fully using its capability yet. So I think we're still early on. So that's where we are in the actual AI market. I think we're still here. We're still in the beginning of the end of crossing the chasm, which is actually a good thing because now we can enter the early majority, and this is actually where the real money is made. Right? That's really where the real wealth is made. It's where the real money and businesses are actually going to make a consistent, reliable business model around, not just something that's like a fad, like what we were talking about, like NFTs, right? NFTs failed to cross the chasm, so thus NFTs in 2025 isn't really doing much. Now, it could say that there's a cycle that kind of brings it back into adoption, which can be the case for some technology, right? But that's really where I want to give us awareness before we talk about the rest of today's actual live stream. So, all right, where are we now in the AI landscape? I said fairly early, and I'll actually show you this. going more into one sec. Yep, boom. Going more into this when I asked AI where we are, right? So again, why it matters. Most businesses and technologies die in the chasm. They get early buzz, but never become mainstream. That's because early adopters buy based on vision. The mainstream buys based on proof and practicality. Again, real world use cases. The mainstream's not going to adopt AI until we actually have real world use cases that actually see a business owner uses this thing, actually makes money from it, actually saves time, and it's easy to implement, right? Early adopters like us who are on this call, we're visionaries. We see the vision, but we need to determine where can it actually have practicality and proof of concept. Okay. So just want to make that very clear. Now, let's talk about this. Where are we at in the chasm? Where are we at right now in this point of the graph? Let's actually see what it says. See? So we are currently at the edge of the chasm or just starting to cross it in the context of AI. So it's pretty funny how it actually agrees in that thinking with me. Early adopters, late 2023, 2024, just like I said, edge of the chasm, just beginning the jump. So depending on who you ask, you might ask, hey, we're at the edge of the chasm, like you asked, like I was just going through. Some people, based on at least AI, they think we're at the beginning of this. So we're still going to cross it. So some people might be a little bit more optimistic. Some people might be a little bit more behind in the curve. But here's what it said. Most mainstream coaches, consultants, and services businesses know AI is important, but they don't know what to do or how to implement it profitably. Again, the whole proof of concept of we need practicality, we need proof, right? Now, once a clear set of use cases, roles like AI sales reps and frameworks become standardized, early majority, which the prediction here is also 2026, just like I was saying. Thank you, Chat GPT. You're just affirming what I'm saying. Mainstream adoption will explode. Offered tools and consultants that position early will become category kings. Okay, so I don't want us to lose this last line I just said. Offers, tools, and consultants that position themselves early will become category kings. Okay. These are the Sam Ovens of the world, the Alex Hermosis, the Gary V's, the Russell Brunson, like people in our space who were early in understanding that social media was going to be the next big thing. They were like people here, social media crossed the chasm, and then they just made boat ton of money, crap ton. I don't think I can swear on YouTube because I'm live streaming right now. Maybe I can, I don't know. But this is what's the same thing. So if guys like Sam Ovens, Hermosi, Alex Becker, Gary V, they realized here that social media back in like 2015 was going to be the next thing. Over a span of a decade, when social media like went from here to there, which is 2025 now, they made the money on the way of crossing the chasm. So what does this mean for you? Okay, let's talk through it. Well, let's use this. Let's look at history. That's why history is so important, right? 2025 here, instead of social media, we're here with AI. If this is you right now, and you truly understand how important the depth of this opportunity is, and you ride the wave crossing the chasm into the early majority, guess what? Well, you'll make money alongside the way. And in 10 years from now, in 2035, when this thing is like over here, you might be the next, Gary V, the next Sam Ovens, the next Alex Hermosi. Okay. Because that's where these type of people, the industry category kings, they're made during this wave. Okay. It's not just in AI, not just in social media. There's also the internet. There's also steel and oil, right? That's just how history repeats itself. Okay. So does that make sense? Drop a one in the chat if that's making sense to you. I want to make sure that concept makes sense before we move on to the next thing. Okay. All right. So let's ask ourselves, what's BS? What's hype? What's real? Let me zoom in again for y'all. Okay. What's BS? What's hype? What's real? Okay. So let me walk you through a story of how I came across. I'll use my own business and myself as an example. So in 2024, I was already using ChatGPT prior back in like 2023. I was like in image generation, all that stuff. But I actually came across voice AI in 2024. So if anyone doesn't know what voice AI is, it's just like inbound like voice receptionist, outbound like AI SDRs that are actually like calling your phone and literally having a conversation with you. You're having a voice conversation with AI. You guys might even see this feature in like ChatGPT. So if you go in chat, you can actually have this voice option. You can see in the bottom right here, activate voice mode. So what that actually does is it allows you to actually chat with ChatGPT, and you have a vocal and voice conversation rather than like a typing one, right? So we know the technologies already existed for a while, and one of the things that I've was kind of just like not necessarily hesitant with, but I took a little bit of time on was understanding if there was a real use case. Again, going back to that original concept, what are real use cases for AI? Okay, because this is what actually helps you answer the question: is this BS or is there actual practicality and proof? Practical proof. Because I'll tell you this much right here. The only thing that matters, the only thing that business owners will actually give you money on, the only thing that will create a real AI business for the long term, not just like a short term cash out, is these two things: proof, practicality, right? You can wow business owners with all the cool image generation. You can even wow them with like with a Sora video that you created. But if you can't tie that thing to proof or practicality and what's the bottom line for them, like what's actual real results that you create for them, then you don't have a business there. You have something that they've maybe paid you once, and then there's no repeat customer there. There's no real retention, right? So the way that I think about what's BS, what's real is we got to ask ourselves, especially if you're in this service-based business, right? It's like the big key things. Okay, does it make more money for the business? Does it help save them more time, right? Or does it help them not just make more money, but also save on cost, right? So here's my money sign. Boom. Right. Does it increase their money, decrease their cost, or save them time? Those are the big three that I like to think through. Now, there's obviously more that's going to be enticing, but like this is the big three that actually matters for whether an AI is BS or whether it's a real use case for an actual business. And in my firm opinion, those are the only things that you should really be focusing on. If there's a domain of AI that you're really like intellectually curious on, go ahead. Like more power to you. Have fun. But in my firm opinion, like I'm looking at AI not to necessarily have fun. I'm looking at AI to increase productivity, right? Save time, increase money for myself and my businesses, and also save cost. So if it doesn't fall into at least one of these three things, ideally figure out a way to make 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3. That's where the real big bucks are. If it doesn't fall into one of those three, then it's oftentimes really easy to answer that question. It's just BS. It's just a waste of time, right? So at one point, I got like really interested in like Midjourney. That was like image generation back in like 2023, and I like went down this rabbit hole of learning image generation and finding and having all these like cool little like samurai AI modified photos. And it's actually how I got into AI was funny enough image generation. But I thought about it. I was like, with my current offer and what my expertise, like, does this save money for someone? Does this save time for someone? Does this decrease cost? And yeah, you can make the you can make the claim of like, yeah, well, it saves them time and it helps them not have to like hire a content manager if you could just get AI to do it. And it's like, yeah, sure, but like that's low leverage. There's better AI to focus on that's higher leverage for you, right? And so if it's not significantly moving the levers on one of these big three, then it's probably just going to be BS and there's no like real use case for it. So the biggest problem that I see with a lot of people who want to launch an AI business or who are trying to use AI inside of their business is they're just distracted. They're distracted on the shiny object AI tool of the month or of the week, whatever it is, and they're not actually finding tools, aka the real AI tools that are like the signal amongst the noise on what it's actually going to move the needle. So our problem nowadays, like when we're talking about the topic of what is the state of the AI market, the problem nowadays is not opportunity. The biggest issue nowadays is there's too much opportunity. And we actually have to learn and have discipline on just the key most important AI tools, or the most key, what I call the AI domains, right? I'll go a little bit more into this in a little bit of like what is an AI domain. But like if you're not focused in this game, you will get lost. If you're not focused, you will get distracted. You can go down rabbit holes of researching for hours and hours on end and not actually make any more money. And you're just wasting time. AI moves so fast. That's why it's amazing. At the other end of the end, AI moves so fast, and that's why it's so like distracting and hard to actually like figure out something that's gonna like make you money. The difficulty is actually just deciding on like what's the thing I need to focus on, and that will have staying power, right? So I'll go into that a little bit in a second here. But if we can if this is the only thing that you get from this live stream, which is if I can figure out one key thing to focus on, like what's the most important thing that is going to be a real practicality, real proof, help someone with the big three, then you actually have a business. Then you actually have something that will help make you money, not just in the short term, but also the long term, right? Because I've talked about this with my clients. In the online coaching world, we have this idea of like niching down. I realize there's something in the AI world that we actually also have to do, and a lot of people aren't doing, which is like you also need to decide on your AI domain. So let me explain this. In the old world, we could just figure out, all right, what's our niche? Like, let's say I want to serve gym owners, right? My AI business is going to help gym owners. Back in the day, you just niche down, and that was enough. That's not enough in 2025, and it's definitely not enough in the state of the market that we're heading into in 2026. So if you're going to play the game of AI, you actually also need to focus on what I call this AI domain. So what is an AI domain? Well, let's actually define it. Let me go back to, let me pull up some nice Gamma docs for y'all. Boom, boom, boom. AI, lose this one. All right, scroll down. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, I can't find it. So let me just define it for you guys. The AI domain is like your specific expertise that you focus on in AI. So let me explain. So there's like AI consulting, AI content, right? And this can even be like everything from like copywriting, which is a subdomain, to like video generation, right? You could do AI analytics, AI coding, aka vibe coding, AI automation. So these are different domains that you can like specialize in, right? Think of this as like the specific AI skill set, the micro skill set that you want to focus on. So if the macro is, I want to get better in AI, the macro skill set, the micro skill set is specifically, I want to get better at AI automation, or I want to get better at AI consulting or AI video generation. So that's where a lot of people I've noticed get stuck on is they don't know what domain to focus on. For example, my AI domain that I love focusing on is AI sales, and even the subdomain within that is like AI voice, right? And the problem, again, let me go back to the problem, is we have too much opportunity in AI. I call it like AI slop. And so if you don't choose a domain, you will literally drive yourself crazy with how many options and how many permutations that you can create for your offer. And to be honest, here's the truth, and listen quickly, y'all. If you're watching this replay, you're watching live right now, The truth is you don't have enough time physically as a human being to try to focus on all these different things. There's just too much. New thing comes out every single week. So if you don't decide to specialize, you will be generalized and you will lose. Okay, I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. If you don't decide to specialize, then you will be generalized and you will lose. Okay, so choose a specialization. I have a whole process about how I help people do this, but it should be falling in line with what your strengths and intellectual curiosity is. So if you're more of like a content creator, more creative, a lot of people I've seen go into like AI content. If you're someone more sales driven like me, I like going to AI sales, right? If you're someone who's a little bit more analytical or systems driven, you go into like AI automation. There is no wrong or right. Now I have predictions or I have beliefs on, what markets will be kind of evolving and what AI domains are going to be sought after in 2026. But there is no wrong or right answer, right? Now, let me pause there. Any questions, y'all? I see some more people joined us. So feel free to drop questions in the chat if you guys have questions on that. That's a really important concept. If you guys can understand this, figure out your AI domain, and figure out your niche, you will find what I call the sweet spot of AI, which is AI mastery. Like, what area of mastery am I trying to gain? That's where your offer lies. That's where your expertise lies. And that's where you can unlock the 10, 20, 30K plus months in a business model. Okay. So I want to be very clear on that. We got to get the domain right. You got to choose your skill set. Am I going into AI automation? Am I going to AI consulting? Am I going to AI coding? Then you can figure out the niche within that. And then you found the happy medium. That's how you create an irresistible or a no-brainer, as Alex Hormozi would say it, AI offer. Right? That's specifically the missing piece I see with a lot of people. So if you can get that right, you're golden. Okay. So now let's talk through an important conversation. Is AI in a bubble? I've been hearing this a lot recently. Is AI in a bubble? Okay. Is it like the NFT bubble? Is it like the internet bubble? I've been hearing that a lot lately. So let me pause this lo-fi and actually have you guys just hear it from our guy, Jeff Bezos himself. Let me figure out if I can actually share the audio with you guys. Also share audio system. Boom. Okay, cool. We should be good now. Allow. Okay. Can you guys just give me a yes in the chat if you can hear this video? The video is going to play right now.
So when people get very excited, as they are today about artificial intelligence, for example, is every experiment gets funded. Every company gets funded. The good ideas and the bad ideas. And investors have a hard time in the middle of this excitement distinguishing between the good ideas and the bad ideas. And so that's also probably happening today. But it doesn't mean that anything that's happening isn't real. Like, AI is real.
Okay, so I'm going to pause there. He says, it doesn't mean that anything that's happening isn't real. AI is real. Okay, so let's keep that in mind as he's talking about what he's going to talk about next, which is the bubble.
And it is going to change every industry. In fact, it's a very unusual technology in that regard, in that it's a horizontal enabling layer. Today we talk about AI-first companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and Mistral and so on and so on and so on. And that's normal for this phase. But that is not the biggest impact that AI is going to have. The biggest impact that AI is going to have is it is going to affect every company in the world. It is going to make their quality go up and their productivity go up. And so that is hard to fathom, but it's real. Now, what the stock market does, which is when we think of bubbles, we think of valuations and market caps and things like this, and how many billions of dollars are being invested in these 6 people at a $20 billion valuation, even though they just started yesterday, right? That's very unusual behavior. Investors don't usually give a team of 6 people a couple of $1 billion with no product. It's rare, and that's happening today. But the great thing about industrial bubbles, this is a kind of industrial bubble, as opposed to financial bubbles, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. If you go back, like the 90s had a biotech bubble, and there were a bunch of pharma startup companies that were designing drugs and using new techniques, and the world got very excited. The investment world got very excited. As a group, they all lost money, but we did get a couple of life-saving drugs. A bubble like a banking bubble, the crisis in the banking system, that's just bad. That's like 2008. And so those bubbles society wants to avoid. The ones that are industrial are not nearly as bad. They could even be good because when the dust settles and you see who are the winners, society benefits from those inventions. They still get those life-saving drugs. And that's what's going to happen here too.
Okay. So I want y'all to understand how important what Jeff just said, right? This is a person who's actually survived multiple bubbles and one of the biggest companies in the world, Amazon, right? So this is where I think a lot of people go wrong when they hear the word bubble and it's like, is AI in a bubble? Like, is it going to be like NFTs and crypto? Is it even worth going into? Well, here's the answer. I was actually, funny enough, I saw this short earlier this morning and I thought it was so relevant to what we're talking about today, which is there's two types of bubbles. Okay. There's the industrial bubble. And then we have like what he called like maybe like a financial bubble, right? Or just like a normal bubble. Like these are like the 2008s of the world. These are the things that most people are actually like kind of accustomed to in terms of like hearing a bubble, right? And then there's the industrial, which is like, yes, it pops, but whole industries come out of it. And from those actual like shifting of the beach or the wind, here's the truth. Good things come out of it at the end. Only bad things come here. Here, there's potential for good, right? So I'm actually gonna talk through this a little bit before we go on. It's a really important concept to know that because when you can understand that there's different types of bubbles, it actually gives you confidence and clarity to focus on an industry for a while and not be afraid that it's going to go anywhere. So I'll give you an example. When I was super into like NFTs and like crypto back in like from like 2019 to 2022, I was like all in on NFTs. You know, made six figures with NFTs, and the issue was I had believed it was an industrial bubble, meaning it was going to last forever. Even if there was like a crash, it was going to come back, and I could like dive into fully becoming like my whole like focus and career was on NFTs. And now I know it sounds crazy right now, looking back in hindsight, but at the time, like it felt so real, and I was making so much money, and there was a lot of believers and enthusiasts about it. I was like, NFTs are going to be here to stay. It's the next big thing, right? And then the market crashed, and NFTs didn't come back after that, right? To this day, it still hasn't come back. So that's more of a normal bubble, right? A financial bubble where there's overvaluation on a certain thing and doesn't really amount to anything after. There's no good that comes after 2008. There's no good that came after that actual bubble. Industrial bubbles, like let's look at one that we can go back to. Okay, let me use this example. We kind of take this for granted, but the industrial bubble of the dot-com boom or the dot-com bubble, the internet. Guess what? The internet actually was a bubble, but it was an industrial bubble that even after this crazy hype and then crash, guess what came out of it? The good of the internet stayed, right? The Facebooks, the www.coms stayed, the website stayed, the whole internet infrastructure actually stayed, and it was a net positive for society. So that's an industrial bubble. It popped. There was hype, right? Or let's go back to crossing the chasm, right? Because this is actually what happened. Where's my crossing the chasm? Is my chart? My chart's not here. Ah, there's my chart. There we go. It's so tiny now. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Okay, so the internet, funny enough, went through the bubble. There was hype, right? It crashed, but it crossed the chasm while it crashed and it came back, entered the mainstream, and now guess what? 20 plus years later, everyone is still using the internet, even your grandma. Okay, so here's the thing. Same thing might happen with AI. We have this huge hype. There might be a temporary pop in the bubble, but because in my firm belief, it's an industrial bubble, it'll come back. And even after the pop, all this money, all these people will still adopt AI throughout the years. Okay. So my firm belief is AI is more like the internet and it's not like an NFT bubble, or it's not like an 2008 bubble. Okay. We're an industrial bubble. So why am I saying all this? Because I want to give you guys the confidence and clarity that if you are looking to launch an AI business, there is a long play here. There, yes, is a shorter window of time of like, you maybe have the 12 to 18 months to really capitalize, where it's never going to be as easy as it is now, or never going to make as much money as it is now. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't just launch an AI business and make some money while you can now. The people who launch an AI business now make actual real clientele, actually have real infrastructure, actually gain real expertise. No matter if there's a bubble popping, when it's not if it happens, it's when it happens. When it happens, you'll be positioned just like the Alex Hermosis, the Gary V's, the Alex Beckers, and you're going to make money and continue to ride this wave and have a business that's going to last for decades if you really choose to. Right? Amazon, been here for decades. Let's look at when Amazon first started. 94. Okay. I want you to pick. When was the internet? When was the dot-com bubble? Okay. Dot-com bubble was 95. Okay. So Amazon, one of the biggest companies in our world, aka Jeff Bezos, who was just speaking there, started and was growing in the middle of a dot-com bubble. Guess what? 30 years later, homeboy's still here. Company's still here. Right? So we shouldn't come from a place of fear of if it's a bubble or if it's going to pop. Come from a place of confidence, like, okay, regardless, I'm making a decision to play in this arena because I know it's the next internet, and I'm going to continue to ride the wave regardless of when the bubble pops. Position yourself. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. Hope that was clear for y'all. Let's go into the next thing. And we're wrapping up here, guys. If you guys are liking it so far, feel free to give me some reactions. Drop some fire emojis in the chat. Drop some reactions in the chat, right? If you've never been on a YouTube stream, you could drop a reaction just like this. It's in the bottom right of your chat right there, okay? That way I know you guys are actually liking this, and we can do more of these in the future, all right? All right, predictions for 2026. What predictions do we got? Okay. So we were talking a little about predictions earlier, but in terms of like my big prediction here is we're gonna see a little bit more of like there's this old term in the tech world called where SaaS is like eating the world. Sounds kind of funny. Let me actually fact check that. And like that's what was the term SaaS is eating the world? It was like software is eating the world or something like that. I'm actually curious now. Maybe I'm just making stuff up. Who knows? The term software is eating the world. Okay, software. Mark Anderson said that. He's a legendary investor. My boy Mark. Why software is eating the world? His argument was that software-based companies would eventually dominate every industry. Okay, from retail to transportation to entertainment by digitizing, automating, disrupting traditional business models. That sounds familiar to what we just heard from our boy Jeff. I'm talking about Jeff Bezos as if he's like my homie. It's kind of funny. He literally said AI. Let's replay it. I'm not going to play the whole clip again. Yeah, they're right there. He says he's going to change every industry. AI is going to eat the world. What is this? Software is eating the world. Would eventually dominate every industry. You got Mark Anderson saying this in 2011. You got Jeff Bezos saying this in 2025. Right? So we're kind of going through, if we're looking at just like an overall theme that's happening, is like AI is kind of like eating the world right now. What I mean by this is it's touching every industry and it has an impact on every industry moving forward. So like you're going to see this AIification, just like there was a softwareification. There was always an app for everything. You know, if you're kind of like me, like if you're a millennial like me, or even you're like an older Gen Z, you might have seen this evolution of like the world before cell phones or the world before iPhones and the world after iPhones with all these apps and stuff, right? I saw that evolution as I was like kind of like an early preteen. I saw like phones just taking over, apps taking over, and AI is kind of not kind of, it is doing the same thing right now. It's eating the world. And so you saw this huge boom from like 2010 to like 2020. It's like 10 this 10-year generational run, as the kids would say on Twitter. This like decade-long run of just like AI or software touching everything, and all this money flowing into like software. Right. I grew up in Silicon Valley. The amount of millions and billions of dollars that were being printed in software was disgusting. And so we're seeing the same run, I believe, here in 2025 to 2035 with AI, another generational run where all this money is going to come in. And so AI is going to touch everything. That's my prediction. 2026 is going to even have more of an influence. But I also think that the prediction that I have is that a lot of the novel AI is going to die, and we're actually going to find more use cases for AI that are actual practical and proof based things. Right. So remember, I don't know if anyone remembers this. See in the chat if y'all remember this. Anyone remember the first iPhone? There was like this beer app. Anyone remember that? Hopefully y'all remember this. So this beer app in iPhones. It was pretty funny. It was like the most useful. Yeah, beer simulator. This is what it was. Yeah, shout out the beer app, right? It was like one of the first apps that came out on the app iPhone. And I remember, I think I wasn't even like 13. I was like 12. And I was like taking my iPhone and pretending like drink it. And it was like the coolest thing. But like it was like I think it was like one of the number one apps for a while. Yeah, Zoomers will never understand the aura this gave you. Like, I would literally be in class. Shout out to my boy Oliver. He gets it. Literally be in class, like, oh, look how cool I am with my beer app, right? Real use cases? No. Like, this was one of the number one apps on the App Store, and it didn't have staying power. Why? Because there's no proof. There's no practicality like we were talking about with AI. So I think the similar thing is, like, especially if you guys have been keeping up with, like, OpenAI and ChatGPT, they're creating almost like an app store for OpenAI. It's kind of like the Steve Jobs moment. We'll see if it actually plays out the way it's going to play out. But that's my firm opinion is we're going to see a lot of these novel AIs start to like lose less like limelight or highlight in the mainstream. And we're actually just going to start to actually focus on the things that have use cases, right? Now, I'm really bullish on things, again, the big three that are making money, that are saving time, and that are reducing cost, right? The big three. So I'm really bullish on AI sales reps. You guys have heard me talk about this all the time just because I started getting in this in 2024. And over the past year, all I've seen is it getting better. Like voice AI back in like 2023 was absolute dog crap. It was terrible. It was bad. Like I would never use it. If you guys actually configure voice AI now, like what we're doing here, and you actually tinker with it, sometimes it's hard to distinguish between if it's a real person or not. If you guys talk to ChatGPT through here, like this voice mode has gotten so much better over the past year. So one of my big predictions and why I'm so bullish on voice AI is I only think this technology is going to get better and better. And it's not just sales. Like there's, therapeutic and coaching use cases for this thing. Like voice AI is just, in my firm opinion, going to be one of those things that actually doesn't just have a real use case, but it is only going to get better with time. And there's going to be a point where the voice is going to be so good. It's going to be like 95, 96% as good as a human voice. That's going to be hard to distinguish whether it's a real human or not, which, that's a whole downside and scary part to it. But we're not going to go here, right? We don't have enough time on the live stream to go through that. So my predictions, AI will eat the world. I'm bullish on real use cases like voice AI. Right. And I think my third prediction would kind of just be along the lines of like novel AI is just going to have less, the AKA AI slop is going to have less appeal to this market. Right. People are going to be able to like distinguish between like, all right, well, there's only so many like AI images that I can create that look like Studio Ghibli, right? Like if anyone remember that AI Studio Ghibli craze that was happening like earlier this year, right? It was this little thing, right? People were making like Ghibli art out of AI, and that's the beer app version of the App Store. This doesn't really have any real use cases. It's just like great to talk about and it's funny, right? Well, maybe if you think humor has utility, then you can go there. But in reality, I think we're gonna fall further away from like the Ghibli novelty of those type of AI, and we're gonna go into things that are actually gonna make us some print money, right? So those are my 3 predictions with what's gonna be happening with this whole AI like evolution over the year. Let's talk about what that actually means for you. What's working in terms of AI business models? Where should you actually put focus on? What's actually going to lead to that 10, 20, 30, 50K plus per month business with AI? Okay. This could be a whole video in itself. So I'm going to keep this a little bit shorter because we only have we only have about 15, 20 minutes left in the live stream. But 2024 was a really interesting place for AI because we saw it as the theme as like AI automation. You saw a lot of these like guys on YouTube, like AI automation agencies, maybe guys like Liam Otley. Love Liam, have nothing bad to say about him. He actually was the one that coined this term. But a lot of businesses were focused on how do we automate for other businesses, so AKA save time, right? My prediction in late 2025 and going into 2026 is if the theme was AI automation for business models, my firm prediction is like we're gonna really have a shift in like AI sales. Okay, I do like AI sales reps. So while 2024 was about saving time, I think this is more going to be about how do we increase money and decrease cost. So we saw a little bit about this through the theme of what I believe in 2025 early on was, and it still is a little bit. It's like this. If you ever heard of like AI agents, I've had master classes on this before. You're going to start to see kind of the evolution of people trying to replace or at least augment or supplement their workforce with what I call a digital workforce. Okay. So we saw a early onset of it this year. I think that's going to continue to be the theme in 2026, but it's going to be a little bit more nuanced. So people are going to actually want to have a part of their workforce, and part of the work that I'm doing now is helping teams adopt a hybrid system, right? So they have humans, they have AI agents, aka digital employees, and figuring and helping them out on how do we bring those two together, right? How do we bring those two worlds together and actually create a hybrid sales team is what I do. Right. So I see a lot of 2026 business owners and businesses are going to start to think about, wow, there's actual real use cases. We're going to start to enter the actual early mainstream, as we were talking about here, early majority. And this is where business owners are actually going to look for a digital workforce. I believe in like 3 to 5 years from now, companies all across the world are just going to have a normal aspect of things being a digital workforce. Like they're going to have their humans and they're going to have their digital employees. And that's just going to be a normal thing. Kind of sounds crazy now, but I truly believe that's the future of 2026, 27, 28, moving forward, or what it's going to look like. So any business model, to help dial this down to the question, what's the best business model that's working right now and what's business model that's going to work in the future? Any business model that helps create these digital workforces or digital AI agents for businesses is going to set itself up for success. Now, I'm not here to say that things like AI automation are going to stop working or that there's no place for AI content or, other things like AI coding. These things still have a place in the game, in the meta, but I think this is the number one meta. Because think about it. Let me just break down the math for y'all, right? This is what I've been teaching some of my clients is like, let's say you go to a salon and they have a receptionist there. Okay, a human receptionist that's taking all their phone calls. And this person's sole job is to just take phone calls. Okay. The average salary of a receptionist for a salon, let's say in New York City. Okay. So it's going to be about $21 per hour, which, okay, $21 per hour. What is $21 per hour annual salary average? Okay. About 43,000. Okay. So $43,000. So let's even be conservative. Let's just say, you're saying 40K. Okay. For a human receptionist. So the cost of a business for a human receptionist at a salon is about 40K. So if you're someone who's an AI consultant like me, you go to these businesses and you say, hey, what if we did this? What if I charged you 3K for the build out? And then you can be, let's say like you're brand new. So you're even charging conservative. Like I'm not even charging these prices. This would be too low for me. But it's like, hey, it's only $1,000 per month times 12. So it only costs you 15K. Okay. So you go to them and you're like, hey, I can build you an AI receptionist that can replace your human receptionist that doesn't take lunch breaks, doesn't get tired. It can man the phone 24/7, right? It's not complaining. You don't have to manage this person. They're not causing drama inside the salon. And I can get you back $25,000 per year back into your pocket. So you have something that's more efficient, more productive, and costs less. Business owners see that as what? An irresistible offer, a no-brainer offer. Because they're saying, okay, this person's going to put $25,000 back into my pocket, and it's better. When you understand how to position AI in this manner, it stops becoming, those fancy image generation AI or the content posts that I'll create with an AI. Like now, while those things have merit, while those things create value, in my opinion, if you're a beginner, you have zero business experience, you have zero AI experience, you have, maybe no sales experience. This is the easiest sales conversation there is right now. They're already spending money on this 40K. And you're just saying, hey, reallocate your budget into an AI digital workforce at 15K. It's money they're already spending. They're now just going to reallocate it to something that's better. Okay. Once I understood this, once I understood how to position this properly to a potential business owner, that's why the AI growth consulting model works so well. Because you just get paid on what? You get paid on your insights, your strategy on how to do this. You don't even have to implement it yourself. You literally just have to give them the strategy and really the connector of these tools. You don't even have to build these tools. You literally just have to connect them with pre-existing tools. They didn't even know about how to use AI. All they know is they know they want to use AI, but they don't know how to do it. So if a business owner is here, Mr. Business Owner, and this is you, AI growth consultant, your job is to just be the middleman or the middle woman with the AI tools, right? Connect them with the right AI tools to help solve their problem. They pay you money, you solve their problem, and you don't even have to build their AI. This is why this model, I believe, is so great, is because if you can tap into this, where you get paid on your insights, aka the arbitrage or the AI arbitrage in this market right now. This is why you're able to get paid 5, 10K, 20K in a business model like this, even if you don't have any expertise, because the leverage is no longer needed on your expertise. The leverage exists within these AI tools. You just have to have the knowledge on what are the best AI tools for that business to focus on. So for me, it's focusing on my AI domain, like I was talking about, of AI agents, specifically to replace business owners who already have a human workforce who's spending money on these things and creating a digital workforce for them. It's really it. It's really it. That's why I get paid for what I get paid on a more part-time basis. And it's why you can get paid on a business model like this. So that's why I believe this is the best thing moving forward for 2026. All right. So that being said, let me know if you guys have any questions. We have about 5 minutes to take any questions to do a little bit of Q&A, right? In terms of capitalizing on the AI gold rush, I'm going to be doing some more workshops. So this is more of a live stream, right? We'll be doing more future workshops where you can kind of learn about this. But I do have my booking link below if you guys want to learn more about how to apply some of these things into your own world. Whether you have an existing business, figuring out how to get AI tools to gain leverage, or if you want to learn how to launch your own AI business, either part-time or full-time, to 10, 20, 30K per month, kind of learning what I'm doing right now with both local and online businesses. Feel free. There's a link below. You can have an actual chat with me. It's not a person on my team. It's not a person who's just going to like try to sell you on something. I'll help you actually put together an AI game plan that's customized to what you're doing. So whether you decide to work with me or not, doesn't matter. I want to at least give you a couple insights. So whether it's a now or later, all good. I just want to help more people to understand how great of a business model this truly is. So if you literally just want to hop on the call, ask me questions, have some one-on-one chat, go for it. Yes, Oliver, thank you. This is I would like to think I am the truth. I appreciate that. So that's the key, y'all. Make sure that you focus on key AI domains that are actually going to have staying power. Work in businesses that will have the proof and practicality for 2026. And most importantly, AI is not a bubble. It's here to stay. If it is just some sort of bubble, it's an industrial bubble that's going to have staying power for years to come. So again, thank you guys for hopping on. I'll see you guys in the next live stream. I'll probably do more of these as the month and the Q4 is continuing along. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.